All right, friends, it's T-Man, and I'm back with a new video. It's on Coach, I guess Coach Wolf coaching or whatever. The gym lifting, recruiting, fitness slave himself. Fitness slave, yes. I guess he's a science slave too. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to do a reaction video to Wolf Coaching. So Wolf Coaching says, I've seen this, look, this is the second time he's done this video because this just popped up a few hours ago. So I've seen this video before. He's done practically the same thing, the same person on there talking everything. But I figured, you know what? I'm just going to do a reaction, a review of this video. Since the last one, I didn't do one. I'm going to do it on this. A secret way to grow muscles. Man, I've talked about this on my channel. There's no secret ways. I don't know what they're talking about. The secret way. There is no secret. Science already tells you how to build muscles. Jesus. You damage them. You could either sit in a very long period of stretch. You could do stretching exercises, or you can sit in a long, prolonged stretch, or you can damage muscle fibers, and then, yeah, you can get more myofibrillar growth. That's about it. The rest, if you're lifting in the gym, you're lifting slave, endurance lifting, whatever, it's sarcoplasmic. It's not based on myofibrillar growth, okay? These are based on muscular adaptations.
From gaining muscle several times faster than normal to growing without lifting at all, exercise science has discovered many things about muscle growth that you probably haven't heard about. Let's start with stretching.
Really? You probably haven't heard. Ooh, they're going to tell you the magic key, the secret to building muscles. He's got the secret. Oh, okay.
Did you know that static stretching could build just as much muscle?
No, really? I had no clue. Like, I took martial arts when I was a kid. We did a lot of stretching. I could barely walk for the next couple of days. That's how much we stretched for more than an hour. Oh, man, it was horrible. Yeah, okay.
Was lifting. To date, 2 studies have directly compared lifting weights to stretching. In 2023,
lifting weights to stretching. You're stretching with the weight. The weight is stretching your muscle if it's in the eccentric portion. Yeah, hello.
Warnicki and colleagues performed a groundbreaking study. They split the participants into 2 groups. The lifting group performed 5 sets of 10 to 12 reps on the calf raise, 3 days per week. The stretching group, on the other hand, stretched their calves in an orthosis for an hour a day at a discomfort rating of 8 out of 10. Here's what Eric Helms, who tried the experiment for himself, had to say.
We did see...
Yeah, you're going to get the same amount of muscle growth. And the muscle, there's tension. There's this severe tension on it. So it has to give at some point. And it'll most likely give you some more myofibrillars and these nuclei to support that growth. It'll adapt by protecting from any more damage or any more of these stretches. Yeah, it won't work anymore. The second bout, it gets harder. The third bout, the fourth bout, and at some point, it just gets astronomically difficult.
A significant increase in muscle thickness. That's all good and fun, but this was not good.
Muscle density?
And fun. In fact, I'd say it was good as far as the outcome, but man, it was extremely painful. What I would
I'm so tired of this Dr. Eric Helms guy, man.
Experience would be like pins and needles and discomfort and trying to jump out of my body about 20 minutes in, and then going, sweet, a third of the way there. And the beauty of it, that you have to stay out of an 8 out of 10 discomfort, is that while it would get better if you just held the same distance, every time it started to get better, I had to then tighten the boot more. So it stayed this way for 12 weeks. It was incredibly painful. Yeah, I got a little bit better at being tolerant of the pins and needles, but my calf would go numb and then it would just kind of burn everywhere. But it seemed to work.
At the end of the 6-week intervention, both groups had gained a similar amount of muscle in their calves. Just this year, the same group of researchers conducted another study, this time in the pecs. The lifting group performed 5 sets of 12 repetitions, 3 days per week. The stretching group stretched their pecs for 15 minutes per day, 4 days a week at a discomfort rating of 10 out of 10. Yet again, both groups grew their pecs by a similar amount. So, what gives? Well, it turns out that stretching can build just as much muscle as lifting weights. Over a dozen studies at this point have shown that stretching can be effective for building muscle. But there is a catch. You need to be stretching hard and for quite a long time. We also have dozens of animal stretching studies that have shown crazy muscle growth. In fact, this is where the idea of stretch-mediated hypertrophy stems from. you induce a crazy rate of
Step-mediated hypertrophy. Yeah, we already know all this, man. This is nothing new.
stretch in animals and observe insane muscle growth. But why? When you stretch,
Usually animals, they're unaccustomed to running. They don't run every single day. They only ever run after prey. When it's time they want to eat, they run after this prey. That's what they do. And then they get damaged in their legs. Then they go through a repair and a type of remodeling. See what I mean? That's usually just adds to the density of the muscle fiber. They may not just hypertrophy on their own unless they're eating a lot. It's all dependent.
your muscles generate passive tension, just like a resistance band being stretched out. And yeah, the amount of tension you're generating might not be that much, but if you stretch hard enough and for a long enough time, that tension can actually build up to the point of stimulating hypertrophy. I wouldn't recommend replacing lifting weights
Stimulate hypertrophy or stimulate myofibular growth? Man, hypertrophy just means something's getting bigger.
with stretching. But this theory can come in handy when traveling, for example. Training your quads, calves, pecs, and triceps without equipment is straightforward. But what about your hamstrings or your back? To minimize muscle loss,
Yeah, just do lots of stretching. Like you would go to the gym, work out for an hour or two. Just do a lot of stretching for that hour or two, whatever, yeah. And you'll grow muscle too, because you can grow muscle from that, yeah.
you could try stretching them hard for 5 to 15
They'll damage, repetitive stretches will damage the muscle fiber and they'll repair and remodel a lot stronger. But when you come back and try to do it again, it's going to be astronomically high, hard, difficult to bust them again. Now, if you just sit in a stretch position, that's totally different. See what I mean? That's quite challenging for the muscle.
minutes a few times a week. This can be brutal at first, so start by taking it easy. If you want some good stretches you can do anywhere, I showed you some of my favorite stretches over the last few minutes. What if
Okay.
I told you there was a way to multiply your muscle growth? Let me explain.
Yes, please explain. We'd love to know your take on it.
When your muscle grows, individual muscle fibers or
He's seen my videos because I've directed it towards him. I've done videos on him.
increasing in size. So, if your fibers grow by 10% each, you've gained 10% more muscle. However, instead of making individual fibers grow bigger,
Yeah, but now they're hypertrophying. So protein synthesis needs to exceed that breakdown. But if you don't have the required amount of nuclei, they will not hypertrophy. It's really simple. You understand me?
what if I told you you could create new fibers altogether? That's what exercise scientists like
Okay, if you get a new fiber altogether, it comes with its own set of nuclei, and therefore it can hypertrophy. Yeah, but it'll reach a ceiling limit, an MND size limit. It can only hypertrophy so much.
Professor Ken Newak refer to as muscle hyperplasia, and it's real.
When we think about hyperplasia, we're
I know it's real. I've done all kinds of studies in my old channel, my new channel. I've done talk about it. It's nothing new, man. Where you been? What planet are you on?
thinking about the number of muscle fibers. So we're not talking about the growing of the existing number of muscle fibers that you have. We're talking about adding entirely new muscle fibers to your muscle. So that's what we think about.
You want to know how to do it? You damage muscle fibers. That's how you injure them, and you can add them. That's how. Only in a muscular adaptation could that happen.
Typically in the context of hyperplasia. And, hyperplasia is a process that happens early during development in your muscles, like there's primary and secondary myogenesis. There's a point at which you add a bunch of new muscle fibers. But then those muscle fibers, once they're there comes a certain point where you're just making them grow and you're not adding new ones in order to make the whole muscle grow, right?
In fact, there are animal studies where stretching and lifting
Yeah, and they can only get so big because they have an MND size limit, okay? That's what.
both cause muscle hyperplasia. Several studies have also found that bodybuilders and athletes have more muscle fibers than untrained controls. Unfortunately, randomized controlled trials on the subject are hard to come by, since they require you to cut out a large chunk of muscle. As a result, even experts aren't sure as to whether muscle
It's really easy. If you get the symptoms of muscle damage, if you get the required symptoms like it says in science, the amount of days a bunch of stuff that comes with that, with the damage, then you'll know that you're building new myofibulars. Yeah, but if you don't get those exact symptoms of EIMD training, exercise-induced muscle damage training, then you've not built anything. There's a zero.
Muscle hyperplasia can even occur in adult humans from lifting.
I'm sort of the opinion that if
Yeah,
it
of course it can. That's usually that's the idea, isn't it? Going to the gym, you want to build new muscle.
is happening in humans, it's usually in an extreme scenario. I would think in a response to like really intense resistance training, maybe intense
Didn't I say that? The intensity and duration will get this damage to come back, but also, untrained, unfamiliar, unaccustomed exercises get this damage.
resistance training that's supplemented by anabolic steroids.
Supplemented by anabolic steroids, but they don't build muscle, anabolic steroids. You still have to move for an adaptation if you are a lifter, and if you're not, and you're just endurance lifting, then you're not going to build any real myofibula. It's going to be sarcoplasmic, and then you're going to be like that, in a daze. Why? When you're off the steroids, everything goes away because you never built anything.
And it's not a mechanism of growth that I think is probably common to most conditions in humans.
In contrast, it seems relatively clear that taking steroids can induce muscle hyperplasia, dramatically benefiting muscle growth.
Yeah, okay. How does it do that? It's really easy. It helps increase maximal force production. That's what it does. It's a fucking hormone. So you're able to lift heavier. If you're able to lift heavier, then you should be able to move for these adaptations. But some people, they ease into it. Even though they took steroids and they're lifting heavy, they never really moved for those adaptations for exercise-induced muscle damage. It's a training. It's a separate training. It isn't based on endurance training, coming to the gym, lifting every day like a lifting slave. So now that you can lift heavier because of the steroid, you could use that as a weapon to get new adaptations. That's about it, basically. That's what the steroids are good for. And then you go off them really quick. So what you do is you use the steroid for a very short period of time, just maybe 2-3 months you're able to lift very astronomically heavy, and then you move for these adaptations every single week, and then that's it. And then you go off the steroids and the muscle should stay, basically. There's not even enough time to really shrink your balls out. I think within 3 months, just one cycle, a 3-month period. And a bunch of things, man. Your testosterone will return eventually after 3 months. Of course, it's going to shut down for a while. So it's going to take about 2-3 months to regenerate, to come back. But in the meantime, you're bigger, therefore you're stronger. So you already have permanent motor units and these androgen receptors for maximum force production. So you shouldn't be weak at all. Even if your testosterone is a bit low after you go off, it'll return to baseline within a month or 2 or 3 months. The amount of time that you were on it. Yeah.
But how can we naturally activate muscle hyperplasia? Well,
Easy muscle damage, injure it.
there are two hypotheses. The leading hypothesis is called fiber splitting. When a muscle fiber experiences a large degree of muscle damage, this can cause the fiber to
Yeah, muscle damage causes it to split. Yeah. Okay.
split. One muscle fiber turns into two. The second hypothesis is the satellite cell hypothesis, which doesn't have
It comes with the damage. I've done videos on this. The nuclei come, they repair, they go to that spot to repair the muscle, and then they're donated by the satellite cell to support more further muscle growth. So it makes it bigger and stronger, so it's resilient from further assaults, getting damaged, and that's what makes bodybuilding so difficult to build myofibrillar growth, real muscles. To build real muscles is astronomically difficult. But if you want to build these phony sarcoplasmic muscles and call them muscles, you built muscles, well, go ahead. Nobody will be the wiser. They won't know. See what I mean? They won't know.
as much evidence. Muscle cells have what are called satellite cells. As the name implies, these are cells.
Yeah, they're regulated by follistatin and myostatin in the satellite cell. But sarcoplasmic hypertrophy is not overseen by anything. It's not overseen by any follistatin, myostatin, satellite cell, nothing. That's why you can grow and grow and grow forever in the gym. You can get massive. And on steroids, you can get even bigger. So it's just an energy source. And the testosterone, the steroids are retaining this energy in you because it thinks that you're wasting away because the hormone is so high in your blood. That's what happens to people. So I got cut off there. So like I said, that's what happens to these people. Yeah. That starving themselves, starvation diets, their hormones go sky high to retain everything in the body, the energy and everything for as long as it can until it can't do it any longer.
As the name implies, these are cells that hang around your muscle cell and play various roles. Upon exercising, these satellite cells can fuse to create a new muscle fiber.
No, really? Wow, we had no idea. Like PubMed and NCBI didn't even tell us that. Uh-huh.
In both of these scenarios, a large degree of muscle damage is what initiates this physiological phenomenon.
No, really? A large amount of muscle damage. And what causes that damage? Well, let's find out. Let's find out what causes this physiological muscle damage, broski. He says a large amount of muscle damage. Well, let's find out. Oh, look at that. PubMed, NCBI, whatever. A unique feature of eccentric exercise is that what? Untrained subjects become stiff and sore the day afterwards because of what? Damage to muscle fibers. Why doesn't it say trained people get damaged? It doesn't even say sports people. Yeah, EIMD arises when muscles become damaged after exercise. This often occurs when an athlete participates in what? In a new or unfamiliar exercise, when learning new stuff. I mean, they posted here in physio, whatever, exercise-induced muscle damage, physio, whatever. They tell you here as well, extreme or unaccustomed eccentric exercise can cause exercise-induced muscle damage, characterized by structural changes, yes. DOMS is also known when athletes are first introduced to certain types of activities, regardless of the time of year. Okay, we know that one too. I sometimes I can bring these things up, sometimes I can't. I don't know why it's not telling you about it. That's kind of weird. Usually it would just pop up. To improve, hold on, induced strength speed. I don't know why it's not coming up, but what happens in an athlete's body during exercise? No, that's not the one. Anyways, I can't bring it up right now, but you get the point. And as far as that untrained muscles, well, it's in nuclei overload training, precedes hypertrophy, first training. I've done videos on it. I'm not going to do them again, man.
We have lots of research in various animals. We don't have perfect research in humans. Since most studies are observational, they simply...
We do have studies in humans. Nuclei overload precedes hypertrophy and all loss on detraining. That's one of them. There's many more of them. They've done tests on humans, yes. The whole section of eccentric exercises under PubMed and NCBI, they tell you they've done it on humans, yes.
Look at differences in fiber numbers of different populations who either exercise or don't. We can't clearly say exercise can create new muscle fibers in adult humans. However,
of course they can. This is funny to watch.
Causing muscle damage seems to increase the chances of it occurring. That said, experts like Kevin aren't even convinced it's something you should chase.
We're beginning to get more clarity on the prevalence of it and when it does happen through studies that involve muscle damage.
Yeah, muscle damage. I've already done them, and I've explained what causes this. I've done stuff on it. It's nothing new.
Because that seems to be the instance where you get these things starting to occur, the appearance of new muscle fibers, but that's usually the product of like muscle damage and like a more of a sort of regenerative response to a muscle being severely damaged. And whether or not that results in you having more muscle fibers that then lead to your muscle getting bigger and stronger, I think is probably not likely.
That said, if you wanted to
I
try
like where he says it's not likely, even though science tells you it's likely. They've done already. I've done so many videos. Man, I've posted so many NCBI reports and everything. They tell you again and again and again. They tell you where these nuclei come from and a bunch of stuff.
to stimulate muscle hyperplasia, your best bet is probably to vary exercises every few months. This will increase.
Yeah, do exercises every few months. Don't do it often. Do it periodically, lift periodically, and you'll get this damage.
Muscle damage, since your body isn't accustomed to the novel exercises.
Right, there you go. See? Accustomed, like they said there, unaccustomed exercise is known to cause what? Widespread muscle damage. Never says trained muscles get this damage. It says that trained muscles are their growth is largely attributed to sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, which is a type of artificial muscle growth.
Only exercises and training closer to failure can also be good ideas in this regard. If you're looking for the most effective exercises, you'll want to check out MyoAdapt. MyoAdapt is the smartest training app on the market. It ranks exercises for you in terms of effectiveness, based on the latest research. It's like having a coach in your pocket. In contrast to other apps on the market, it's science-based and generates truly individualized programs, instead of relying on templates.
Yeah, okay, I don't want to know about your stuff here, whatever you're selling.
There are times when your body can rapidly lose muscle. For example, if you recently got into a car accident and had to undergo bed rest, muscle atrophy occurs very quickly. However, upon recovering and resuming regular exercise, your body has the ability to regain muscle very quickly. This is referred to as muscle memory. There are two definitions of...
I could swear this video is a copycat. He did this video again. Maybe it's a re-upload. I don't know. It looks like a re-upload because it says 6 hours ago. This is weird. He had this video up before.
Muscle memory. The first refers to your body's ability to retain motor skills for a very, very long time. The skill of riding a bike.
Yeah, okay. You retain a lot of skills. Gymnastics, whatever you've done.
For example. The second definition refers to your muscle's ability to remember being bigger.
So the thought process here is as the muscle grows, myonuclei get added to the muscle fiber, and that supports the growth. But then when you atrophy, so if you stop exercising, your muscle fibers get smaller, whatever the case may be, that you would maintain the nuclei that you kept, or the nuclei that you gained the first time. So even though the muscle fiber got smaller, it would just have more nuclei in it. The thought process is that when you go to retrain, that you wouldn't have to go through that whole process of adding nuclei again. You already added them, they're already there, and so then the muscle can kind of...
Yeah, but that's only from the first bout. See what I mean? Because you never move for any more adaptations. That's why those original ones are still there. So if you go away, you get back your newbie fake gains.
expand and grow again more quickly.
A group of researchers in Japan conducted several studies on the concept of muscle memory. In their studies, they split participants into two groups. A continuous training group who trained consistently
Couldn't get any more boring.
throughout the whole study, and an intermittent training group who trained for a few weeks and then took some time off. As you'd expect, during their time off, participants in the intermittent training group lost muscle. However, upon resuming training,
They did? Oh, geez.
they gained muscle up to
I definitely recommend you download the
the continuous training group. This is clear evidence for the concept of muscle memory. But how does muscle memory work? Why can we regain muscle so much faster? There are two schools of thought. To explain, visualize a muscle fiber as a cylinder that has thousands of little factories called myonuclei, where muscle growth occurs. These myonuclei contain the blueprints to enable faster muscle growth.
Yeah, we know that, yeah.
The myonuclear domain theory states that each individual myonucleus can only oversee so much muscle real estate. So, to keep the fiber growing, new myonuclei need to be added. The addition of myonuclei
Okay,
can present...
so how do you add them? Oh, look at what it says there. Untrained first First training what? Route. Satellite cell fusion. How about that? But look at that detraining and retraining. You're not getting any more of them. Why?
A bottleneck to the muscle growth.
See, this is the famous map in you find there. Myonuclei precedes hypertrophy and not lost on detraining. Well, look. It says untrained first training route. Satellite cell fusion, hypertrophy. But when they detrain and retrain, there's no more nuclei. He says you need more nuclei to support growth. Right, I would agree with him, yeah. But you're not getting any more. Why? See that? You have to question that. And, yeah, I mean, does he even know that? I told you, a unique feature of eccentric exercise is that what? Untrained individuals get what? Muscle damage. That's what they get. They get stiff and sore the next day due to what? Muscle damage. All right.
Process. If you don't add new myonuclei, the muscle fiber can't keep growing. When you lift weights, stem cells.
Yeah, I already told you. If you can't add more myonuclei, then the muscle can't keep growing. It's really simple. Want to know why? He's talked about this in a video because he saw my videos. That's why he did them. The myonuclear domain size limit, because muscle has a nuclear domain size limit, broski. Myonuclear domain size limit, because MND size has a ceiling limit during hypertrophic process beyond which extra myonuclei are donated by the satellite cell to do what? To support further muscle growth. It's beyond. It's beyond. Like he showed you in that little map, it's beyond. There you go.
Around the muscle are activated. These stem cells fuse and contribute a new myonucleus to the muscle fiber.
Okay, that's all nice, but how do you get more of them? Like he's just regurgitating shit, but he doesn't explain to you how you get more of them. I've already explained in all my videos, even on my old channel, how you get them.
Allowing it to keep growing. Let's say you got injured and had to stop training.
Yeah, you get more nuclei and it keeps growing. Okay, how do you get him, asshole? A-hole? How do you get him, you a-hole?
While the muscle fiber would shrink and get smaller, myonuclei, which contain the blueprints for growing muscle, stay around for months to years.
Okay, what myonuclei? From when you were first untrained and you came in the gym? So you got an influx of them. Why don't you get any more of them? You doofus? Hey, doofus face. Why don't you get more of them?
Since these myonuclei stick around, they serve as a catalyst for regrowing lost muscle.
Oh man, they only regrow whatever you lost. If you go back and start lifting again, if you become a lifting slave, you become a slave to trying to blow up these nuclei, but you're not getting any more adaptations in myofibrillar growth. You understand me? Because you all stay there adapted like the worms these people are out there, the lifting slaves they are. They stay in the gym lifting, adapted. They become an endurance athlete now.
Much faster. That's the myonuclear domain theory.
Yes, and bodybuilding is not based on endurance. It's not based on cardio or any fucking endurance exercise.
Nutshell. There is a second hypothesis though. Epigenetic modifications to existing myonuclei.
So we all have essentially the same set of genes, but how they get controlled and accessed and expressed can change based on the different layers of control above the DNA. So things like DNA methylation or histone modifications, or all these things that are related to more the structural component of how DNA is organized. That can be modified, then allows genes to be expressed in different ways. Okay. And so the thought process with epigenetics is that you may epigenetically change the nuclei that you have so that when you go to exercise again after a long layoff, that the genes that were important for growth the first time are easier to access and can cause you to grow again more quickly when you start retraining.
Instead of adding
I wouldn't disagree with that.
New myonuclei, epigenetic modifications are about improving the blueprints inside your myonuclei. In all likelihood, both of these are actually happening side by side, contributing to your muscle's ability to regrow. Muscle memory is a godsend. Life happens, you get injured, demotivated, or you get sick. You lose muscle. Your body has your back. Get back into working out, and you'll quickly reach your prior physique, around 2 to 4 times faster than how long it took you
Okay.
to build up that muscle in the first place. Muscle memory also has implications for exercising and health. If you exercised earlier into your life,
Exercising and health? What health? What health? Health has everything to do with what you put in your mouth, not with going to a gym is not healthy. A gym eats your energy, which shortens your lifespan. It inflames your muscles, which you get inflammaging. And you get hypoxia and whatever there, and it just rusts you in and out. And you lower your hormones by lifting all the time because you're under stress. And a bunch of things. How can that be healthy for you?
but then stop exercising for years or potentially even decades,
Yeah. So the stress could kill me, yes, okay.
you may still see benefits of having exercised earlier in life. You may have heard that bodybuilders are big, but it's all fluff and pump. The muscle fibers are just swollen up, but not functional.
Well, yeah, it depends, yeah. If it's sarcoplasmic, definitely, and inflammation.
You may even have heard terms like sarcoplasmic and myofibrillar hypertrophy.
We might have heard of that. What kind of lifter would not even know that? Give me a break. You mean people go to the gym blindly? They don't know these things, Mr. Wolf? Well, that's just crazy then.
Floating around. Let's review what those terms mean. Your muscle fibers are composed of a variety of structures. You have the sarcoplasm, which is composed of proteins, water,
Yes, sarcoplasm.
organelles, and a variety of other non-contractile elements. For your muscle fibers to actually be able to contract, your muscle fibers also contain myofibrils. These are the contractile units of your fibers. When someone speaks about sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, they are referring to an increase in the size of the muscle fiber where the ratio of sarcoplasm to myofibril has increased. Conversely, if someone speaks of myofibrillar hypertrophy, they are referring to an increase in the size of the muscle fiber where the ratio of sarcoplasm to myofibril has remained the same or decreased. Since sarcoplasmic hypertrophy refers to a relative increase in the non-contractile parts of the muscle fiber, it's often deemed non-functional. Your muscle fiber's ability to produce force decreases when scaled to its size. That's why you'll often hear people say, bodybuilders have big muscles, but it's all fluff. Effectively, they're saying their muscles are big, but relatively weaker. Myofibrillar hypertrophy, on the
Then why are they lifting heavy weight? Because they're taking steroids.
other hand, means an increase in the contractile elements of a muscle fiber. So it's usually thought of as functional. Your muscle fiber's ability to produce force stays the same or actually increases relative to its size.
Yeah.
The classic stereotype is that powerlifters have smaller muscles than bodybuilders, but they have more myofibrillar hypertrophy, making them strong but small. Importantly, that functional,
disagree.
non-functional dichotomy isn't true.
Yeah, I don't know. I disagree.
While sarcoplasmic growth doesn't directly grow the part of the muscle fiber that produces force, it does make the muscle fiber more efficient at creating ATP for muscle contraction. It is still functional, just functional in a different way. Are these ideas even real? Simply put, yes. We have studies showing sarcoplasmic hypertrophy occurring from lifting. What's unclear
Man, I've already done this study before. Man, Christ. This is old news.
is whether there's a limit to sarcoplasmic hypertrophy or not. Some studies suggest that
There is no limit because it's not overseen by follistatin, myostatin, or the satellite cell. It's just fluid. It's glycogen. You're loading glycogen in the muscle.
sarcoplasmic hypertrophy occurs more readily in individuals who haven't experienced much of it yet.
Yes.
In fact, most studies find that increases in muscle size are just myofibrillar hypertrophy, not sarcoplasmic. Many questions remain about sarcoplasmic versus myofibrillar hypertrophy. However, both can occur, and in the future, we may find out that certain types of training are better at stimulating sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, allowing us to see even more muscle growth.
Yeah, it's called endurance training, what you're doing right now in the gym. So as long as glycogen exceeds that breakdown, you will load lots of it. So keep eating a lot of those potatoes.
if we focus on that type of training. Or, alternatively,
Yeah, what type of training are you doing? Because you're obviously not doing any of these to try them out. The hell?
if you're a strength athlete, you could avoid doing that type of training to be as strong as possible in a given weight class. You may have heard certain influencers speak about the theory of stretch-mediated hypertrophy and about longitudinal hypertrophy. The idea that when stretching or training a muscle at long muscle lengths, sarcomeres get added in series to your muscle fiber. They claim, however, that this type of muscle growth is short-lived and only occurs in complete beginners. What does that mean?
No, it doesn't. It happens and it's short-lived if you don't keep bumping it in there. But anyway, the nuclei, look at these nuclei. They're so cute.
Your muscle fibers are composed of myofibrils, which you can think of as long cylinders. These cylinders are made up of sarcomere.
Yes, and you get a sarcomere number in series. They can be in parallel and so forth and so on because they're the stretching material. They're the first to give.
Which are the functional units of muscle. In turn, sarcomeres are composed of actin and myosin, allowing your muscles to contract. The idea of stretch-mediated hypertrophy is that when stretching or training at longer muscle lengths, the sarcomere will experience passive tension. Upon experiencing passive tension, individual sarcomeres will grow, increasing in length. Eventually, because of how long individual sarcomeres have gotten, your body will instead opt to add more sarcomeres, since lengthening existing ones even more isn't feasible. Because you are increasing the length of the muscle fiber, this has been referred to as longitudinal hypertrophy. In contrast, there is another type of hypertrophy that's been referred to as radial hypertrophy, which involves adding sarcomeres not following one another, but in parallel to one another. These two types of hypertrophy
That's the sarcomeres in parallel. Yeah. Okay, whatever.
are relatively well documented. Some influencers will claim that
They all happen through muscle damage. It's an event. There's so many things going on there. Yes, repair, remodeling, sarcomeres, this, that, myonuclei, yada, yada, yada. It is all coming from exercise-induced muscle damage, the most superior exercise to get this muscle to get bigger and stronger and whatever, get more muscle.
longer muscle length training is only effective in beginners. The idea goes that only so many sarcomeres can be added in series. Once you hit that cap, there's no longer any benefit to longer muscle length training. That idea is
We're not just focused on longer length muscle training. We're gonna do all of it all in one shot, Mr. Wolf.
probably false. My colleagues and I performed a systematic review of all studies that examined the type of growth stemming from longer or shorter muscle length training. As I frequently discuss, longer muscle length
That
training
makes no sense, but okay. This longer, shorter length training, no such thing.
did consistently cause more muscle growth. We did also see potentially greater longitudinal hypertrophy from longer muscle length training. However, we also saw potentially greater radial hypertrophy from longer muscle length training.
Oh, brother, this guy's really boring me, man. I'm gonna fall asleep watching him.
In short, training in the stretch position just caused more muscle growth, both longitudinally and radially.
But how did it cause more muscle growth? What did it do? Did it get the satellite cell to support further muscle growth? Is it sarcoplasmic? What did you do?
Likewise, while some evidence suggests that a muscle can only grow longitudinally in beginners, there are quite a few studies finding longitudinal muscle growth even in lifters and athletes with several years of lifting experience. So even if longer muscle length training primarily worked through longitudinal hypertrophy, advanced lifters still stand to benefit. It does seem like certain types of training cause more longitudinal growth, and certain types of training cause more radial growth. For example, eccentric training can cause more longitudinal growth, whereas concentric training.
What? Okay, whatever, man. This hypertrophy changes appears to be achieved through distinct structural adaptations, yeah, which is the eccentric. If you get damaged, that's how it does it, yeah.
Can cause more radial growth. However, the same can't be said for longer muscle length training. Unfortunately, this is an area of research where many influencers jump to conclusions. You see, much of the research is in animals, following unrealistic training protocol. In fact, that's where the term
Okay.
stretch-mediated hypertrophy came from. And yet, that concept is being used
What about exercise-induced muscle damage? Hello.
to describe the results from longer muscle length training in humans, which is a misnomer. These influencers often disregard human randomized controlled trials. For context, this is what the hierarchy of evidence looks like, and where you should get your information from. While future evidence may change this, for the time being, simply perform an effective routine based on the human empirical evidence on muscle growth from different training approaches. The reason I don't hammer down on theories and mechanisms
Yes, sure, okay, Mr. Wolf.
more frequently is because they are simply less relevant to the average trainee than a study that directly put two different training approaches to the test and saw which one grew more muscle. That said,
That won't give you an absolute guarantee. You don't know what these other people were doing. Maybe they did more than you and they got more damage, they grew more muscles, or maybe they did less. Who knows?
these theories have important implications for your training. But I want to hear from you.
These are not theories. These are the truth. Hello? What are you talking about? You kind of obviously know it's the truth, you stupid slave. Another stupid slave, whatever. It's incredible.
Did you know about these 5 theories? Did you learn anything new? Leave a comment down below and I'll respond to some of the most upvoted comments.
Great, man. Tell me what you think about that. Like, subscribe, support the channel. Thank God it was over because he was just putting me away, dude. He's done this video before. That's why I just figured I would go over it now, react to it. There you go. See you later. See you in the next one, man. I gotta go.